courageous war horse from one of those historic periods of fighting between Ireland and England started the line. He was an Arabian belonging to an Irish Captain Byerley, who raced him when he was not at war, and everyone called this horse Captain Byerley's Charging Horse, or the Byerley Turk. Two other Arabian progenitors soon followed and gained racing fame in England. By the middle of the 18th century, descendants of those three Arabians were recognized worldwide as the first thoroughbreds, and every thoroughbred today traces its ancestry to one of those, to Matcham, or Herod, or Eclipse. And the fabulous hotel, casino, and spa known as Agua Caliente gave the world a glamorous and sophisticated playground that ranked alongside the French Riviera and sultry Havana. Fewer than 1,000 people lived in Tijuana when the well-known prizefight promoter James Wood Coffreth came down from San Francisco and with a hand-picked team opened Hipódromo de Tijuana on January 1st, 1916, at a point about 400 yards east of the present entry. Now, it's essential to understand that the California legislature a few years earlier had banned betting on horse races. So the sport was dead in the West. Desperate owners had sold hundreds of horses to the East and elsewhere, some for as little as $25 a head. Also, winter racing was being conducted only in New Orleans, Juarez, and Havana. So the opening crowd on that New Year's Day of 1916 was a raucous, happy crush of 10,000 spectators, mostly Americans, many of them well-known personalities. Overcoat Jack Atkin managed the track for Coffreth. Atkin, a canny Englishman who built Pasadena Castle that's still a showplace, also had a hand in the betting ring, where colorful characters made open book till Tijuana invented the mutual system. When Prohibition arrived in 1920, Tijuana and its racetrack boomed and roared. Mexican President Calles declared Tijuana a free zone, and General Abelardo L. Rodriguez, the territorial governor who later became president, purchased nearby hot springs from Alberto Arguello, whose family had once owned all of Tijuana and more. But Jim Coffreth's star was setting. One of his associates, Baron Long, who owned the U.S. Grand Hotel in San Diego, joined General Rodriguez and announced construction of a deluxe hotel at the hot springs. The two-lane border gate looked like this in the late 1920s when Baron Long hired a young San Diego architect, Wayne Douglas McAllister, to design a complex of unsurpassed luxury 2 miles southwest of the entry gate on the site of the former Chinese vegetable gardens. This rare panoramic view, taken around 1930, shows barren virgin land being transformed into a Mexican Shangri-La. At the right of the dog track grandstand is the graceful campanile, which straddled the entrance road. At the far right are some of the red tile roofs and white stucco walls that characterized all Agua Caliente construction. Baron Long called the resort Old Mission style. It was that, but it was also Moorish and Byzantine, Italian Renaissance, and Louis Quinze. And the interiors hinted fashionably of Art Deco and the Paris Art Show. The opening on June 23rd, 1928, was a historic social event in the West. The first facilities were a plush hotel of 50 rooms, an elegant casino with its fantastic gold room, a restaurant, a track for racing greyhounds, and a month later, 33 bungalows, where a couple could stay for $5 to $12 a night. All you had to do was phone Tijuana 1. These were boom times and glamour times, and everyone went to Agua Caliente. 10,000 people a day, 12,000. It was Hollywood South.
No chaperone can get our number. The worst in slumber. Let's misbehave.
On weekends, a constellation of movie stars flaunted their wardrobes and jewelry in the hotel and in the casino, where the Gold Room and its rose brocade walls dictated formal evening wear. The Gold Room was created for high rollers like Carl Laemmle, president of Universal Studios. To the movie moguls of this period, gamblers all, a $10,000 bet was routine. For special occasions, Caliente dusted off its gold table settings. Before 1928 ended, movie star Norma Talmadge cracked a champagne bottle over the rail of the speaker stand, and Caliente Airfield was dedicated. A revolving red warning light, a half a mile away on a campanile 85 feet high, alerted the regularly scheduled Maddox Airlines sky taxis, mainly Ford Trimers, flying every half hour between Caliente, San Diego, and Los Angeles. Hang the expense was the philosophy of the so-called border barons who operated Agua Caliente. 2 months after the crash, it was December 28, 1929, Agua Caliente racetrack opened, right where it stands today, a vast 1-mile oval just a short walk from the hotel. The elaborate spa building and golf course soon followed. The spa included swimming pool, showers, steam baths, sulfur baths, and separate sunbathing areas for men and women. The spectacular resort was no more extravagant for its time, however, than the racetrack, the big new Lodestar. At the track, Spanish tile and stone carvings created a grandstand of grandeur. Draperies in the Jockey Club cost $64 a yard. Many of the visitors were titled, such as Baron Rothschild, the Sultan and Sultaness of Johor, and Prince David, and Prince Sergei Divine. So they were accustomed to lavishness. For instance, in a time when a gourmet meal would cost $1, the price tag on the track was nearly $3 million. That included $200,000 for landscaping alone, much of which was of the instant variety and cost a fortune. Or as General Director James Crofton once explained, "We bought it ready-made. Hundreds of palm trees, not seedlings, but mature trees. The turf was imported from Europe and then rolled out like a great green carpet." Totalizator boards were new then. Caliente had one under the grandstand. And although the track was in the wilderness, a registered nurse and up-to-date ambulance were always on hand. The well-known Marshall Cassidy, who was the starter at Caliente in 1929, before he became affiliated with the New York Jockey Club, invented the first stationary stalls for starting. He introduced them at Caliente's inaugural handicap. Other modern features on opening day had been seen earlier in Tijuana. The motorized water wagon and the system of calling races over a public address system. Naturally, a Charro outrider led the horses to the post. Mammy singer Al Jolson, king of Broadway musicals and the first star of a smash hit talking picture, emceed the inaugural handicap. With Al came his pretty wife, tap-dancing Ruby Keeler. You're about to hear Al talk and see Ruby wreath the winner, Scott's Grey, ridden by Noel Richardson, known as Speck. This is from a 1929 Paramount newsreel, The Eyes and Ears of the World, at Caliente's opening day.
Yes? Yes, I picked the loser. But when I pick my wife, what I have to pick horses for?
No screen star spent more holidays at Caliente than Miss Harlow. She crowned winning horses, celebrated her 24th birthday at Caliente, and wearing a white satin gown slipped to her navel, set the record of 34 straight passes at the dice table. When she appeared, women were known to cry, "There's Harlow, my God, where's my husband?" Many Hollywood stars romantically eloped to Caliente. Others broke up there. And they all got together for the annual New Year's Eve blast of millionaire producer Joseph M. Schenck. Sometimes they entertained. From the day the track opened, handsome Gilbert Roman became a familiar figure in the clubhouse, as he later became at the Tijuana Bull Ring. And there were so many others. Douglas Fairbanks, Jr. and Sr., Babe Ruth, Knute Rockne, gangster Al Capone with his $50 tips. Caliente seemed to improve with each passing week. The spa with its deluxe hotel and sumptuous cuisine, its well-stocked bars, and the gilt-edged casino with its fabulous gold room, the kennel club, the horse race track, golf course, tennis courts, and saddle horses were busy and popular with the great and the near great, and with Mr. and Mrs. American in general. Victorian, from the stable of Caliente partner Wirt G. Bowman, ran the mile and a quarter in 2 minutes, 3 1/5 seconds, and earned $98,400. George Ellis rode Victorian, who had won the Preakness 2 years earlier. In 1931, $100,000 clear went to the winner. The purse was for the Swift Bay gelding Mike Hall of Kentucky, and for owner George Eastman, with Steve O'Connell the jockey. Eastman had recently purchased Mike Hall, who had set 2 American records, and he brought Mike Hall to Tijuana as a 6-year-old just in time for the big money, because money was scarce, and the 100-grander was never worth $100,000 again. Still, memorable afternoons lay ahead, for the best horses and jockeys continued to compete at Caliente. The most memorable mark was left by an unforgettable horse from New Zealand and Australia, Far Lap. This was the first North American horse race to be broadcast to the British Isles, the Caliente Handicap of March 20th, 1932.
Turn up for the $50,000 handicap. Sure looks like the return of good time.
The King of England sent Far Lap congratulations. Many of those who saw the Aussie Wonder Horse break the track record that day believed that he was the most remarkable animal that ever left the post. A few years later, the big gentle thoroughbred died mysteriously near San Francisco. Far Lap's career had been suspenseful and dramatic, as would be the story of the Caliente track itself. Many racing features were innovated in Tijuana. At the left is the first photo-finished camera to be used on a North American track at Caliente. Calling the races over the PA system was developed at Caliente in the 1920s by the famed international racing steward George W. Schilling. The claiming rule is a Tijuana innovation. Mutual betting was started in Tijuana. The Kentucky Derby Future Book began here in the mid-1920s, and later the foreign books were started, permitting wagers on any track just by coming here or going to one of the foreign book offices in downtown Tijuana or in Ensenada, Tecate, or Mexicali. For the better more than for the horse owner, the Daily Double started at Caliente in 1931. It had been tried out in Canada but was unsuccessful there. Here's how this racing oval looked from the air when it and the Daily Double were new. The grandstand at the left was the only one in North America with a finished ceiling and without visible trusses to block anyone's view. In the distance at the far right are the world's first concrete fireproof stables. We have a lot to be proud of. Some of those top jockeys have been mentioned already. Others have included the young Johnny Longden as well as the older Longden. The doomed George Wolfe, the Iceman. Willie Shoemaker, the winningest jockey of all time. Billy Pearson, a fine artist as well as a first-rate rider. Manuel Icaza, one of the first Latinos to gain fame as a jockey. And many more, as well as, pictured here, Eddie Arcaro. At Caliente in 1931, Arcaro won his first race. Prohibition was repealed, and so betting was once more allowed on California tracks. Instantly, Agua Caliente was not the only elegant resort where alcoholic beverages could be served legally. The Bay Meadows racetrack opened in November of 1934. On Christmas Day of '34, Santa Anita heard its first bugle call. Still, the prestigious horses and jockeys continued to cross the border to compete. Norman W. Church brought his star Gallant Sir to Tijuana for the Caliente Handicap in 1933 and '34, and Gallant Sir performed royally, winning each time. 33 with George Wolfe riding, in '34 with Red Pollard, the jockey. Each year, Gallant Sir earned $25,000 for Mr. Church, just half of what Bar Lapp had earned in 1932, as Caliente faced a tough 1-2 punch, the Depression and the resumption of betting in California. Racing continued, but the big handicap was suspended. Finally, the name of Caliente was incorporated into a movie title to shine on thousands of theater marquees. The movie was In Caliente. Its star was Dolores Del Rio, one of the most beautiful women in the 1930s world. Among the extras were a dancing couple, Eduardo Cancino and his teenage daughter, Margarita. As a team, they had started at the first foreign club at the corner of 4th Street and Revolucione. Then they moved their act to Agua Caliente, where they delighted audiences for most of a year, mainly in 1934, when the young lady was 15 and slightly plump, but a beauty, tall and poised even then. Hollywood signed the girl, headed her hair, and renamed her Rita Hayworth. As leading lady, she enlivened many a movie musical. When Life magazine printed this picture of Rita in a lace nightie, she was acknowledged all-time pin-up queen. Then she became Gilda. Every dedicated film buff recognizes this black satin number as the Gilda dress. Because of what Gilda did for black satin, an atom bomb-carrying bomber plane was named for her. And on screen or off, Rita Hayworth always preserved the proud, gracefully arched back of the authentic Spanish dancer. In Caliente was released in 1935. It would have made Agua Caliente even more famous. But suddenly, in July 1935, just as the film was being widely distributed, and while it was still fiesta time in Mexico, President Lázaro Cárdenas outlawed gambling. The resort was doomed and padlocked. The dream was no longer. Only the ruins remain. Yet, on some nights, people who have walked through them think they have seen among the historic remnants the swirling silhouette of a dancing girl in Spanish attire. Benny Serrano, who is the band leader in the spa, says that many people believe she's the ghost of the lovely ballerina known as La Faraona, who was murdered by a jealous suitor. No one knows. Many people think she could actually be the spirit of the gaiety, the excitement, the thrill of living that reigned in that never-never land of Agua Caliente. Seabiscuit, written by Spec Richardson, earned only $8,600 for Caliente, but he received a lot of smiles from actress Arlene Judge. At the horse's right stands owner Charles S. Howard, whose stables were the showplace of San Isidro for many years. When he retired in 1940, Seabiscuit was the leading money winner with nearly $438,000. Shoemaker helped provide additional thrills on May 17, 1958, when he and Round Table came to Tijuana. The Caliente handicap had been revived, was worth $50,000, and Round Table wanted it. He got it by 9 1/2 lengths in his 5th consecutive track record performance. Round Table will be the 1958 Horse of the Year. The Greyhound Club, connected to the horse track since the end of World War II, shared the Caliente Renaissance. Here are two champions, a sleek, built-for-speed dog posed with San Diego's beloved tennis star, Maureen Conley. All Kennel Club records were shattered in 1970 by